Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Talking Points, the show where we give you conversation topics for awkward situations. The weather.
My name's Kyle,
I'm Geoff.
and this is A Tale of Two Movies. Today we're going to be discussing Parasite and Raw.
Let's get into it.
So, technically, Parasite was my movie choice, but Geoff had already seen it. We both had already seen it. But the 2019 Best Picture winner, I had only seen it once, or I guess 2020. 2020 Academy Awards.
But yeah, it was 2019, the award season. Or no, it was 2020 season.
Okay.
I don't know.
But 2019 it came out.
Yeah. And in 2020 it won the award.
Yeah, I remember going to see that movie in theaters whenever it first came out. I was just completely blown away by it, but I think I liked it more the second time watching it.
Yeah, the first time watching it felt like a roller coaster ride. Like it just kept taking you where you were least expecting, and it was so good at what it was doing, and like you forgot you were even reading subtitles at most points of the movie. It was just so seamless and all so smooth.
I agree. Like the first portion of the movie, not like just the introduction scene to the characters, but all the way whenever they're starting to integrate into the house, like that entire sequence, it's just like some of the best exposition I think I've ever seen.
I would have to agree.
I loved the opening scene where they're just talking in their house, like
with folding pizza boxes
looking for Wi-Fi. That it's funny, like throughout the scene you're not focused on the fact that they're telling you their current situation. It's like they are exposing, the screenwriter does such a good job at putting exposition seamlessly and making it entertaining and funny. The characters are so funny in this movie, and it makes it, with foreign language films, I think this is the hardest and most consistently I've laughed throughout and like most engaged that I've been. Of course, Raw, I was engaged the entire time. It's not like subtitles takes me out of it, but I think that humor hasn't quite been like used up to its potential in any other foreign language film that I've watched. It's probably just me not being able to read as fast as the normal average American.
I like how they don't really kind of show you too much of like an intro or anything. They don't like focus on that at all. They kind of just throw you into a day of their life, like what it's like just from the get-go. Yeah. Just showing you how fast-paced they always have to move just to try to make like their next buck or their next opportunity to make more money on the streets, because since they are in a unfortunate situation, you can tell that from the very start.
Yeah, and you can also tell like how they have gotten equipped in street knowledge throughout the time with the pizza box situation. Like,
they're just charisma overall.
Right, and like they're not doing that great at folding the pizza boxes, but whenever they work together as a family, they can convince this pizza delivery person, which is technically like she seems to be at a higher class than these people, so they're able to like see through that and just manipulate their way into like getting each other jobs, and it's great foreshadowing for like the way that they set up their family members for taking on positions in that rich or wealthy house.
And I like how you pointed out like when they worked as a collective unit, like he almost got like a full job interview just based off of his like smooth talking before she realized and had to back out, because when they were folding the pizza boxes, it's like they were all doing individual tasks, and that's why they were noticing their flaws a little bit more, is because they weren't working it more as a group, like folding it together. The dad was just going like fast as shit watching that video while the house was getting fumigated and everybody was like coughing and doing a half-assed job. They weren't working as like a collective unit. And whereas whenever she starts like cutting back their pay, they all start coming in together to get that little extra bit of money, and then they persuade themselves almost into like a full opportunity to have a steady income.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about that. It's so funny how money really controls the way that this family like moves and thinks, and the motives behind what they're doing is usually behind the dollar bill, or like just people in this movie that are in this class, in the same class as them. It's like they're doing things for money. They're basically slaves for money. Whereas these rich people that we're coming in contact with, that these characters are coming in contact with, they're so oblivious. They're so like, of course they have endless amounts of money, but that's what makes money seem worthless to them.
Yeah.
So it's like they see these people as actual slaves.
Exactly.
Because they aren't like, they don't see money as valuable as these people do. So it's, that's, like, I mean, that's something that
I think that can also reflect, like, I don't want to jump ahead in the movie, but like, I don't know if you watch the YouTube channel, Binging with Babish, but like he makes like food from movies and TV, and he did Ramdan from Parasite, and he kind of explained the backstory of it, and it kind of plays into like the high class and low class like mixing together as well, because Ramdan is just like a cheap noodle made with like a top sirloin cut over top of it, and that kind of just like shows like they're putting this expensive piece of meat just on a bowl of ramen
just
versus
some more
like
metaphoric
like
stuff.
something this family could never afford. Like it is just going on a bowl of ramen for this family to eat like after camping that didn't go so well, you know. It's just like another play into it. There's so many like little things like that throughout this movie, just sprinkled in there.
This movie is best picture material.
Yeah, exactly,
like,
which is obviously why it won.
Yes. Yeah, whenever I saw her making the ramdam, and like, oh my god, it just looked so good. I had to go downstairs and make some ramen for myself.
So delicious. If I wasn't like at the end of my shift, I would have gone and just made a whole bowl right then and there.
It actually made me hungry. Yeah, we're jumping around, but I want to talk about that part of the movie, because that part of the movie is so...
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead. It's just that kind of related to what we were talking about then.
We might as well get there.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's start at the beginning of that sequence, because I honestly believe that that's one of my favorite sequences in movie history.
The start of them like cleaning everything up, or
the start of the camping trip for the rich family.
When whenever
they're leaving, it seems like that's either just the second act, or it's this movie has multiple sequences and it doesn't really have an act structure.
Yeah, I just think that right there, like whenever they start going on the camping trip, like since watching it, like I think this was my third time watching it, but like watching it a third time, knowing the previous like sequences of what's about to come, it's just like you just realize, okay, this is where the shit starts. Like this is where everything starts to go south, and like it's just a downhill descent from here.
I guess me too. Like I remembered that this is the night whenever shit unexpected happens for them, and I think with that thought going into it, the drunken bliss that they're in whenever they're just talking as a family, it sets up what happens after it so well.
It's like their last moment of happiness, because like the next day is when the final scene, like I didn't realize it watching it again, but like that night into the next day is like all like in a span of less than 24 hours, and it's just fucking insane. It's like all of this just happening. It's like that blissfulness of them being drunk, not even in their own house, like somebody else's who they manipulated, like their last moment of happiness.
It's just like things started changing very quick and catching up to them, to where, I mean, they start being drunk all together. The old cleaning lady shows up and rings the doorbell, which I'm so just surprised that they let her in, but it's understandable because they're of the same like class of her, so there's sympathy. It's just one of the characters even said like, well, that's unexpected. Like, you know, this is really when the story turns into something. And whenever they discover that underground bunker, that little basement that they have, the movie changes to a different film. That's like when it takes a step into the unknown for the audience, and it's like making real risks that could go either way. Because up until that point, the movie had built up these characters to such an engaging premise, and like they're parasite. Like you're starting to understand, you know, what's going on, and that's like such a curveball. I feel like the first time watching it, I was like, this is. I mean, I don't remember other movies, unless it's written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, giving me these feelings.
Like, the first, all the way up until the maid knocks on the door, like, all of that literally just felt like like a bubbly heist movie almost, you know, like something like Ocean's 8 or something, where it's
so
just like
smooth.
giddy and like exciting to watch, and they're just like working out their stuff so well, and they're doing it so smooth and seamlessly, and you're just like, okay, yeah, like I don't understand how this is gonna go south, but like they turn it.
You're
quick.
just rooting for them because they're making it happen so quickly for themselves, and I mean, as a working class individual, like I can relate with
fighting for a job.
Yes, and also fighting for this lifestyle that you've like never had, and just daydreaming about it. Like the way that poor people daydream in this movie about, you know, using the rich people's stuff and like just living in a rich house and what that allows you to do and feel like was so interesting to me, because this family was getting drunk all together as a family, which was nice, but like they still, I mean, the father's very depressed, did not, you know, his whole conversation with his son in the gym about the plan and like having a plan, his philosophy about that is the problem with that family and what got them there in the first place, in my opinion. So it's like the dad has so many flaws, and whenever he gets drunk and like almost like, you know, slaps or, you know, physically harms his wife, it shows like that family has a lot of flaws, but like, you know, this is them acting like they have it all.
Exactly.
And the cleaning lady in the flashback, like later on in the film with her husband,
did the same thing.
Yeah, but I mean, she was just so much more like classy. It was as if it was because she had been in that environment for so long. She was just like, she was able to release the side of her that she had always wanted to, and she was growing on that side.
Right.
So like taking that away from her is like reality caught up to her really quickly whenever
she didn't really have like a backup plan or anything to fall back on.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate.
That husband character to that dude. Well, I guess just like closing out that sequence. The early arrival of the campers, the rich, wealthy family. Like this entire sequence, it's just everything that happened. It was just driving the story along. And it was so exciting, even though the first 45 minutes of the movie was just as exciting. It's like it slowed down, but only
it itself back up.
It only slowed down in like in the time that it was telling the story, because it slowed down to where it was like, okay, we're gonna discuss this night, whereas before that it was kind of going like day by day, and like, you know, everyone was moving their way in. But anyway, whenever they were hiding underneath the table,
and they were talking about the smell of just like, he smells like sewer people, like he smells like people who take the subway.
I didn't quite understand how built into the dad's character, like, or like how much that hurt him and affected him. Until like watching it recently. It
planted itself in him, and like that's what his ultimate downfall was just that's all it took, was just, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like it wouldn't necessarily have affected him like in his day-to-day life if it had happened, but like just the fact that he had seen these people and the way they take advantage of their wealth, and then just the fact that they started dogging on somebody who didn't need to be dogged on. Like they obviously knew he was of lesser class, but like that didn't stop them.
That's another just flaw from the dad. Like he didn't have he had a different motive from the rest of the family, and that obviously comes out at the end of the movie during the party scene, unfortunately. But like classism is taking a heavy toll on his mental, and it has been for some time. So whenever he gets this opportunity to start making dough and actually start having conversations with this rich man in his car, he starts to realize how much he actually despises the wealthy, or, you know, the rich. And for a split second, I just loved it. Whenever, I'm gonna jump all the way to the end. Whenever he lifted up the guy who had just gotten stabbed in the side.
Yeah, because he was in there for so long, so he obviously smelt like horrible.
And he just lifts him up and like grabs his nose. I don't even remember that. I don't remember seeing that the first time I watched the movie. I don't know why I didn't like. I mean, I must have picked up on that because of how important and how much it clicked this time. But he like that just completely clouded his judgment. And I know it's just fiction, but I was so into those characters, and I was like, I just wish there was a way that they could get out of this.
Yeah.
Because classism had taken such a toll on their lives that I was like so on board with them, even though their decisions throughout the film were not, justifiable.
And the dad almost just kind of just says fuck it in the end, because A, he's just like at his breaking point, and B, he's realizing like his daughter's in front of him dying, like the truth is gonna come out, like everything's gonna get revealed. He doesn't have anything left, like he's gonna be in trouble regardless. And that also kind of they foreshadowed that whenever he was just like, it doesn't matter if you kill a man, like nothing matters. Like he was literally said,
doesn't
like
matter
if you kill, like no plan, like even if you kill a man, nothing matters. And that kind of just
his downfall. That type of thinking was his character. Like his dialogue with his son in that gym that I brought up, that was the basis, I feel like, of his character. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he's a very flawed character, like we said, but the other characters didn't have that. The mom wasn't like very motivated, but she was more like motivated to keep things together, whereas the dad's character actually didn't have a plan from the start, and at the end he didn't have a plan, but he took action. And when that happened, I couldn't really remember what the ending was at that point. So it was as if I was watching the end of the movie for the first time.
Yeah, I couldn't really remember if I remember the ending right. Like I could remember if I
didn't remember how long it went.
Yeah, I didn't remember the note being that extensive. I was like, that's why. Can we get to the ending, or do you want to?
Let's do it.
Okay, that's why part of me feels like the ending isn't real. Like it was just his brain injury, like playing into it. Like none of like that. He's just kind of gone forever at this point. Like it's just the only thing to keep him going.
I do think that like if he does have any brain injury, then it wouldn't have stopped him from translating the Morse code or like getting up to that mountain.
Oh yeah.
Are you saying that that's all?
No, I'm saying it's because remember he said like he had brain surgery or whatever like twice, and he couldn't stop laughing when he came out of it. Mm-hmm. That shows that there's obviously like something neurologically wrong with him, and like he's not going to be the same. Like he does have brain damage, and so that's why part of me thinks like this is just some like he thinks it's real, but in reality it's not. This is just something like his brain has made to keep him going, to keep him out of like a sad slump, and like just perpetually like, because he's never going to be able to get enough money in his lifetime to like buy that house, which is why this plan is going to take so long, because it's going to keep him occupied for the rest of his life. And as long as he has that in his mind, like he won't focus on the brain injury and become in that depressive state and like slow down and like give up.
Yeah, he has a plan,
yeah,
which is different from his father.
Exactly.
And that's what gives me hope that, I mean, I hear you, but I took it as a different way. I took it as him fantasizing about, the future. And the last shot of him being back in his house guaranteed that he was just like daydreaming to me.
Yeah.
And that he wasn't, like, I thought maybe they could have been showing us the end of the film right then, but then I was like, this is too good to be true.
Yeah.
So it's really just like the optimism, but it's also brought down by the weight of like, I mean, I don't know how it is in South Korea, but it's probably a whole lot the same or like similar to America, but like the system is rigged against the poor.
Yeah.
So where you can't, it's very hard to make your way up there, but I think it's possible for that character because he has a plan.
Right.
He cares enough. Like, imagine the feeling if you knew that somebody you loved was like living in that house, and then you just bought it one day
and opened the door and like come up. Yeah.
Man,
that was a satisfying ending for like a second, and then he takes it away from you almost in like a poetic way. Like it's not like doesn't hurt you. You're like, okay.
You know what should have happened during that daydream? The dad should have walked up to the son,
just
and then the son. No, the son should have just been like, "Oh man," and it's the party scene all over again. That should have been the actual ending. The son's a rich snob by the end. Completely changes his mindset.
Do you have any other talking points you wanted to get to?
I loved every time that the dad character or the driver character, the poor dad, was driving the wealthy father. around. And he was just constantly looking back and making everyone in the theater like
just nervous,
super uncomfortable. And then finally the rich dad's just like, eyes on the road. And really, he's not saying that because he actually wants him to keep the eyes on the road.
It's just like the respect thing that he's like always talking about, crossing the line.
Crossing the line. And he does cross the line during that party scene.
But the dad has to let it go because of what they got to get ready for the son. Like, this is about his son, you know? Those parents did care about their kids.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give him that much. Those parents.
They did. They might have been sheltering them a little too much.
Yeah.
Dogtooth. Prequel? Shit. Do you mind while you're thinking that if I could add something to what I was just saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just at the end, like right before the dad, or all of the chaos ensues. The dad character's talking to the other dad character behind the bushes. That rich father is just such a good dad, and he's like trying to explain like how he's gonna make everyone happy. And the poor father is just kind of out of it. But he says, think of it as part of your work. And
you're getting paid to be here.
You're getting paid to be here. That's what brought me to that point that I made earlier about just money means something different to different people.
Like, and he sees that as a controlling point.
Yeah. And the dad wasn't buying it at that point. He was not in the system anymore. He was like,
money was lost to him.
Like, he had been through some shit, and other things were in his mind at that point. And like you said, it had only been a day. So
that was the next morning, and they just all like, oh, it's prom too. And what was such a tragic night before for them, like they were just like, oh, the rain was such a blessing, and like the previous night, like their house went to shit, and like this next day they're grieving and like trying to get themselves together, and they have to go to work, where they're like throwing just a party randomly because they can afford to, and like they have the time off. And that just, again, I know class is like the main theme of like the whole movie, like that just plays into that all over again. Just how it's just the simplicity of like, it didn't really matter to them, like what a little rainstorm for them was just a flood, and like the worst thing that could happen to their home.
I also want to bring up how good these characters were at their like assigned jobs. I know that I don't really remember anybody's name except for Jessica. But the brother character, Kevin, I mean, he was a phenomenal tutor until he started kissing the girl. The Karen was Karen? Is that her name?
A girl?
Jessica,
yeah.
She was way better than I had remembered at doing the art therapy and just manipulating.
That was great.
The dad was excellent at driving, which was so tense that first time.
When he's holding like the coffee, trying not like making sure he doesn't spill any of it, like as a test.
And
he even says, "This isn't a test. I just want to go for a drive." While he's like,
and he's testing the hell out of him.
And then the scene where they're eating after like successfully getting like his first job, and like she also got the job, and they're talking. She's just talking about like, I don't know, I just fucking Googled some random shit and winged the rest, and that crazy bitch bought it. Like that was just like the icing on the cake, because like it just shows who's really in control, like, and just in that environment, like.
And it shows what a person, like how little a person that has street knowledge has to try to convince a gullible rich person. Like, she just went on Google, and like a rich person couldn't play that character as well as she did, but she has been living in desperation for so long that it's like, it was easy to just mold into something else, even if it's like a commanding role where you have to tell people not to be present in the room. It's like, that's totally stepping on somebody's shoes.
And the way she like just takes over like Daesung, like she just like, he starts listening to her like left and right, and like that's just what truly amazes the mom. I don't even feel like it's like the art at that point. It's just like the fact that he listens to her. She's just like in shock and awe, and just like amazed with that enough. And then also, like, the way she was just like, I Googled it and, like, winged the rest, and that crazy bitch bought it, that also, like, kind of plays, like, since she's being an art tutor, you could also kind of argue, like, maybe that was his way of kind of, like, talking about the art world, of how, like, you know, you see these paintings with just a couple streaks on it, and they call it fine art, and it sells for millions of dollars. Like, the rich are, like, just so gullible to what, like, the lesser
Probably.
fortunate can conjure up.
Probably.
Yeah, like it's just like you all play on like the whole art scene like nowadays.
Damn, I didn't think about that, but yeah, probably
Yeah.
because Jesus Christ, if I see some art that isn't, I mean, I've seen art that's like $10,000.
It's just a black canvas.
Wouldn't be $10,000 if the artist wasn't
Exactly.
already known. Yeah, it's just a different. I mean, I don't really,
Yeah.
I don't buy art, so. But like if I were rich, I'd probably buy some art because that's how you make money.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just keeps getting more and more valuable as time goes on. Which I think Parasite will probably do the same. Do you have anything else you want to add on this movie?
Parasite, great movie. 10 out of 10.
I think I'd say the same. I'd give this a 10 out of 10.
Fantastic picture.
Fantastic.
Raw.
You chose this movie?
I did choose this movie. I chose this movie mainly because you hadn't seen it, but also because I think it's just such a fantastic horror movie, and I just really wanted to rewatch it as well.
You'd classify this one as horror?
I would classify this as body horror.
Yeah, I guess it can get pretty like brutal, pretty gruesome, some of the scenes. I think that the most like horrific things that I saw in this movie were the thought. It was like the thought of these like sisters having to deal with it.
Yeah.
It was more of like the concept that was so horrifying.
Yeah, it was.
But like to a person who's probably, I know that you're not this person, but like would be squeamish to blood or, you know, a fucking bit up leg.
It would definitely be a jarring imagery that would stick with them. That's why I think of it as horror, because it would scare the right person, like literally terrify them.
Yeah.
Like some of this imagery would be like, oh fuck, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start. Okay.
Well, I think of it as a drama that if someone was like scared by that stuff, they would probably be scared throughout to where like it's almost a thrill ride at that point. But like since I didn't have that sensation, it was like such a hardcore drama for me. Yeah. But like it was done in a way that was obviously fictional. And it was supposed to be like relating to, of course, real life, but this premise was just so wild.
It was. It's a very good. I love the premise.
Yeah, me too.
But it's also, I would say it is a drama for sure, but I would like a drama thriller, because it does keep you on the edge of your seat a lot of the time. Like towards the end, like the third act is just all like, what's gonna happen next? Like you're just like, fuck, like. It's just like the descent into madness and like just coming to the realization of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to start from the beginning?
Sure.
That first scene of the splatting the potatoes onto the plate, and then she gets a meatball. Was it a meatball? It looked like a meatball.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell what it was.
Was some sort of meat, like
just looked like sausage, maybe.
Right,
like
sausage or meatball or something. But yeah,
and then, I can relate with that shit. I'm vegetarian, so I've gotten enchiladas with some meat in the sauce that it didn't tell me about. And I don't like being that guy. That mom character looked like she had been doing that all her life, which makes sense.
And we know why.
We do know why now. But at the beginning of the movie, she just kind of seemed like
a Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like, whoa, there's...
Like, I wouldn't handle that situation like that. She seems like a proud vegetarian right there. Which, of course, that is some good exposition.
Yeah.
It's a good... It's not as seamless as like Parasite, because I noticed that like this is them telling me that this is a vegetarian.
Yeah, they have to somehow get it,
right.
But it is not as seamless as Parasite. The way he's just thrown into the day of a life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't really even know what they're doing until the end of like that first scene, kind of when they're dropping her off at the college. At this point, you're just like, oh, they're eating together, and you know, you don't really pick up on it until.
You know that it's important because it's there, and like it gives you a second to think about it. But I think that's like the the only purpose for that part of the movie.
Yeah.
And once she like gets to school,
it's not even really to build like on the relationship with the parents, because it's just like, you know, they're her parents.
yeah,
Like, she doesn't have any, like, I don't think ill feelings towards them or anything. It doesn't seem like they're just her parents, you know?
yeah, maybe she's just a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, she has our point of view of her mother.
Yeah.
And that father character just, you know, I noticed with the dad character from the very beginning, and I didn't think of it, but like, I noticed that he looked pale. And I noticed that like he had the scar, and I was like, you know, he probably has some secrets.
Right.
But I didn't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
We can talk about the very end of the movie at the very end of this, but
absolutely. I love the ending of this movie.
oh yeah.
So good.
That is like whenever I watch movies, it's like that reminds me of cinema that is exciting. And fuck it.
Let's
just talk about it.
I feel like we should wait.
Okay.
I feel like we should wait.
We can wait. So at the beginning of the movie, after she gets to school, there's that, you know, kind of
knowing where to go, what to do.
Yeah, and there's that party scene.
Yeah, she finds her dorm.
Yeah.
And we discover she has a male roommate, which she was not expecting and obviously was kind of uncomfortable with. But I feel like he quickly settled her nerves when he said he was gay. He didn't say it in that sense. At least the subtitles didn't, but...
Yeah, and like, I just remember watching that party scene, and at the beginning, like, I don't remember if the entire party scene is just one take, but there is a one take in that scene, which starts with her looking at the door to the party, and the light is like beaming in
all the way up until she meets with her sister Alex. It's just her whole first experience in the party is just one continuous shot.
Yeah, loved that.
Yeah, it was amazing. The cinematography in this movie is so good.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that in Parasite.
No,
we can make up for it with this movie.
Absolutely, yeah. Backtracking to Parasite cinematography is gorgeous.
Yeah, mixed with the editing, it really shows that like they knew what they were doing. They knew exactly what they wanted to tell with that movie.
Back to Raw.
Same with this one. This editing was a little more jarring.
Yeah, jarring.
Just because it's a different story.
That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to jar you. They didn't want you to have a seamless transition into the next scene. I
don't think it would have worked as well.
Yeah, and just like the way you get the feel as soon as she like finally starts finding comfort and like that guy busts in and like her room gets ransacked, you know, like, oh, okay, and they start like mentioning Hell Week and like kind of initiation type shit, you know, okay, this is gonna be, you know, she's in for kind of a wild ride, which something she wasn't expecting. She thought she was just gonna go to school, when in reality it's gonna be a little bit of something else. And her sister is already there, which we know this by now.
Right. So with one of the most interesting parts in this movie, aside from the premise and the obvious interesting stuff, but like the dynamic between the older sister and the younger sister was so powerful to me. And that was like the power of the film emotionally, I thought, because the sister like knew that this was a family thing, and she force fed the liver or whatever it was, the raw piece of meat. And like, it was, I mean, I didn't know what was happening whenever I was watching it, but like thinking back on that, it kind of confused me, because like they both, maybe the sister didn't want to seem alone or like be alone.
Yeah, that's why I was rewatching it. It almost seems like she thinks of it as a rite of passage at this point. She's like, I feel like she knows her mom has gone through this, because she also knows that she's going through this, and she's like, you know,
this is just part of growing up.
Yeah, and they'd already talked about being traitors and having faces cut out, like in the party scene when they went to like look at the pictures the night before or whatever at that party, whenever they got out of there. So she's like, you don't want to be seen as a traitor, you know, and like have your wall shamed or whatever, you know, like our parents have done it, I've done it, like you can do it too. And she's not warning her just because I think in her mind she's like, I've gone through this, where you're gonna end up going through this, like you can't hide from it forever, like, and then she also doesn't want to go through it alone, because she's learning how to deal with it herself, this issue.
Yeah.
And she wants someone who can be by her side through it all, so it's not as scary. And terrifying.
And that's kind of just metaphorical for what like that type of week in a school or like
exactly.
an initiation could actually do some good for a person if it's not forcing raw meat to expose a person's cannibalism or like need for raw shit.
Yeah. This is everything you're going to get throughout the next 4 years, all in 1 week, just so, like, if when it does happen to you again, you're not going to not have experienced it almost, you know?
Yeah. You know, not every school would have an actual raw, like, tasting.
It's because it's a vegetarian or a veterinarian school.
Yeah.
Like, it's a specialty school, so it's, like, special for them, like a rite of passage for vets again. Like,
yeah. And I watched the trailer, which I probably shouldn't have done. But I read the synopsis and watched the trailer, so I knew what this movie was about, and I knew what it got to. It was still very entertaining, but I just wonder what it would have been like watching this movie without that information about, like, what she ends up doing with eating people. Yeah. Like, I knew that going in, so a part of me was kind of waiting for it. Right. It didn't like disappoint me because that stuff started like picking up pretty quickly. Yeah. I wonder if I would have thought the pacing would have been different if I didn't know that happened.
I just realized we actually did get the opening scene wrong. It was the car crash that we saw happen with the person running out into the road and the car veering off to avoid hitting it and then crashing into a tree. Yeah. And then it just kind of cuts. And then we see that crash later on when her and her sister are going to get food off campus, like after the initiation. Was this after the initiation?
I thought that she was in a bus with other people.
Yeah. That was a bus with like her roommate, right? This was like after she had tried to steal the food at lunch. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And she looks out the window and she sees. I didn't get a good look of the person, but it looked like her face or the person's face had been kind of chewed up a little bit. Yeah, it was
like mangled, like beyond recognition. I think that was just the kind of the point to show. It was like scratched and like, ugh, yeah.
Yeah, I figured that. I mean, whenever that scene, that was the opening shot, I kind of figured that was our main character. Right. And it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not.
So that was a nice little surprise.
And so then the initiation happens. She wakes up with a rash, and she's like getting this rash, and the rash starts going away. You know, it's just because she got the food poisoning or whatever. I don't think it was because of the food poisoning. I think because once she had a taste, you can't stop. Otherwise, you know.
Yeah, like, I think it activated a gene in her to where it's like she like turned into an animal at that point. And exactly. That was her.
Which I think is the whole reason why they all three, like the women in the movie, need to continue to feed, is because they're going to get that rash if they don't, which is ultimately, I don't know if she gets to that conclusion by herself or it's because like the cream starts working a little bit, but she just still has that craving. Like that craving is now inside of her just because she had a taste. Like it's there, and we see that when she starts trying to steal the patty and then like gets caught and like she has to like her friend has to pay for it or whatever, and she ends up just throwing it away, and so they leave to go get to a different place. And that's like kind of her actual first taste of like enjoyable meat, and you know she enjoys it, but then afterwards she talks about like just never being full and satisfied, and that's just like it's just showing like how the primal instinct in her is like slowly building. Like she has the craving, you know, like she wants the cooked meat, and then she goes to the fridge and like, oh, I'm just getting breakfast. And,
it's starting to slowly.
She eats the salmon. Worse and she like worse. Starts tasting it and everything, and then it shows her like in the dissection table where she's just cutting the dog open with such ease. Like she just like slices it open, starts like ripping shit out, and like the guy's kind of staring at her in awe because everybody else is having obviously a hard time with it, and she's just the only one like
getting comfortable with it. Yeah, she's like excited to see what lies beneath.
One thing I didn't like is how.
Can I bring something up about just the itching?
Yeah.
That scene was so fucking uncomfortable for me to watch. I had really to pause it. Just because like I was laughing and squirming so much, and I hate that I paused it, but I actually did just because like I could not take seeing somebody and hearing someone just itching flaky red skin. It was
they did a good job of making that an uncomfortable scene. I do agree with that. Yeah, that was nasty.
You can keep
like
going.
The part where she like scratches her like thigh and like it's just like the big sore there, and she's just like
No.
digging her nails through it. It's
I don't like.
It looks bad.
That is what makes this movie a horror, if anything.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah, exactly. The body horror. That's.
If I were to go to if I went to a theater and for an hour and 30 minutes that was the movie,
That'd be a
I would
horror
probably
movie.
pass out.
Yeah,
I would probably have a similar reaction to people watching The Exorcist in the 70s.
Not good. But one thing I didn't like about this movie was they mention her genius and like how she's like the top student in her class, but only whenever she gets caught because that friend cheated on her. Like they never mention it again. And it almost seems like why even have that scene in it where like she is like just being interrogated and being drilled.
Yeah, they didn't come back to that.
They didn't dwell on that at all like anymore, which is like why it kind of like just felt like that's the only part that kind of takes me out of it. It's like that one scene because like they don't even show the consequences of her like getting caught cheating afterwards, or like it almost just seems like it didn't have like it was just to lead to the scene of her throwing up the hair in the bathroom. Like it was just there to so it could be a better segue.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the dialogue that the like principal person or professor.
He was like you know, like all these other teachers like feel like you know they like you, you're on their good side, not me, just because you're at the top of your class. I see right through it or whatever. I feel sorry for your, like she's just trying to get her to admit that it was his fault because he's like, oh, if like I have to report this, you're gonna get in more trouble because I'm gonna say it was your fault because I feel more sorry for him because he has to work. And
right. That's I think that was the point of the scene. Him getting to that point of like I think that people like you don't need to be here.
Right.
You discourage kids from coming to our school. Your type of person, and that's true. Like she shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
For her own self like interest.
Yeah.
However, she probably would have found out about that cannibalism interest at some point. But yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't remember that scene even happened until you brought it up right then. So it doesn't play like the most important role in the whole gist of the movie.
After that, when she throws up the hair, that's a hard scene to watch too. That's just like nasty.
It just keeps going.
Yeah.
And it's so long and yeah, they try and do the same thing with like holding on it and just you know, it doesn't make me squirm as much as like itching does.
I'll tell you the part that made me squirm more than the itching was when she was nibbling on the finger. Like that was hard for me to watch. Like,
that looked good. It looked like a chicken wing.
That's what I thought too, but then I just thought about it actually being a finger and I was just I couldn't. I was like squirming. I was like that part made me like almost disgusted.
When the sister got up and started crying like she understood.
Yeah.
That I was so happy by where this movie was turning because it took this concept and it was building on it. Like it was it seemed like it was breaking levels that I had tried to predict for the movie, and it was going, it was expanding beyond my expectations.
I was gonna say, I was gonna be honest. When I first saw it, we hadn't been clued in that the sister had the same problem that she was having at all. So like, I just thought it was just her pure shock. I didn't realize watching it a second time, you like can see it in her expression that she's realizing like, like, oh shit, like, you know, like I went into the movie the first time I watched it, I kind of went into it blind. I knew the premise of like she goes to a school and like unleashes some inner desires. I didn't know anything about like the sister part and everything. Like, so that's why for me watching it the first time, like I was just like, holy shit, like she's just in such shock she can't even like scream or get pissed at her or anything. She's just like crying, and like watching it again, it's just like, no, fuck, it's like a lot deeper. It's
yeah, and I mean, part of me was kind of on the fence about that, if it was just like a shock thing. But then the scene right after that kind of confirmed it for me.
The dog ate it, like she's just covering for her sister even further.
Yeah, and like the mom and dad character didn't really seem to be all that like shocked or like investigative like about it.
Because they didn't want to know the truth. I feel like
didn't, and that almost seemed like an inconsistency for me. It seemed like a flaw while I was watching the movie that I would have to try and remember.
Because of how careful she was in the beginning, and like now she just seems like she didn't care or like she didn't want to know.
But it's totally not. Like it just totally makes sense that they would not want to have to think about that right now, and they want their kids to kind of figure out their own way of dealing with it, because that's what has to happen.
Another thing that I noticed watching the second time was when the dad was like, you know, once it tastes flesh, like it's an animal, like you need to put it down. like with the dog, because like they said the dog ate the finger, so it's gonna have to be put down. And he's just like, once they've tasted flesh, it's an animal. There's no stopping it. It's gonna get hungry for it again. That just kind of chance.
Like,
he knows about their condition, so that's why he's like drilling this into their minds. So like, he doesn't realize. I don't think at that point he realized that the daughter has eaten flesh. So I think he might realize like she's discovered something about it, because he knows the trials they have to go through in the school. So he's probably aware that she's going through something with it, but doesn't realize that she's tasted the flesh. So he's just still trying to steer her away from like tasting the actual human flesh, because I feel like that's the tipping point once they do taste that in their line. Like they can start off with raw meat and they'll be fine, but once they get a taste of that actual human flesh, that's when it becomes like they need it. Like they can never stop having it, otherwise they'll feel like shit.
Yeah, it showed whenever whenever I can't think of her name. What's the main character's name? It's not important. The main character, whenever she first she's like, and she takes the blood. Yeah, that's right.
She just like sucks the blood from her palm,
and then that vampire score, that organ plays behind her.
The score and
whenever it turns a little the
soundtrack in this movie is fucking. I love every single song. Yeah, like in this movie, it was just so fucking good. Yeah,
the song that plays during the party scene that we talked about, it was that kind of pieced together the scene as well.
The French rap song where like it's just talking about like being like a whore while she's like putting on makeup and dancing in front of the mirror. It's a bop in my opinion. It was it was a good song.
Yeah, I remember turning to Ryan, and after that scene was done, I was like, I really like those lyrics.
Yeah.
But there's also the scene where the sister character is trying to teach the younger sister,
and we discover that the beginning was the sister.
Yeah.
Right. My bad. Skipped over that.
No, you're good. But what even happens right after that? The sister goes home because she doesn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. And then she hasn't talked to the sister yet, and then the party comes, and I think she goes to the party and she runs into the sister, but she's 10 toes wasted just because she's trying to forget what happened.
Mm-hmm.
She's just fucking sloshed, and we cut to her waking up the next morning just going to class, and that girl's kind of weird next to her, and then her roommate traps her in the bathroom and shows her the actual footage of the fucked up shit her sister did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ryan he forgot that part was
part of the down
that was part of the movie.
Downfall.
Yeah, just dangling the hand
and taunting her actual
she was just
her secret in front
beast.
of everybody. Yeah.
Ugh.
That was insane.
Yeah, and whenever she found out about it, I don't know what I would have done if that was spread around campus, but she just freaks out. I don't blame her.
And walks up to her and they just start fighting.
Yeah.
And the sister just takes a chunk out of her cheek as redemption for the finger.
Mm-hmm.
And then she beats her in the fight and then starts walking away, and then she goes for round two, and then they get into that lock where they're just biting each other, and and it almost seems to calm them down. They're biting on each other and getting that taste of something that's not them, and it's just they're calming each other down almost.
Yeah.
Doing it in a fucked up weird way, they're taking care of each other still. It just shows
that's what it is.
They love each other. They are sisters. They have that sister bond, because even when afterwards, when the whole crowd turns on them two together and just start treating them like animals and get them starts choking them, one of them gets free and punches the other one and is still defending them, and they end up hugging each other at the end of that.
Yep. Yeah, I really loved how at the beginning of that fight they were fighting, and then things changed whenever they were locked together with each other's arms in their mouths. They were together at that point, and they realized that they're the only people who have this type of thing going on.
They need to stick together. Yeah,
they got to stick together.
But the sister still needed a little something more from the other sister, I guess, because right after that next scene when she wakes up in the morning, happy as can be, with a little sore on her face, but feeling okay. And then just she's feeling down, and then just rips his leg, and she thinks she did it at first. She's terrified. She's oh shit, and then she moves him over and sees the stab in the back, and sees the pull on the floor, and just starts following the breadcrumbs back to where the sister is just sitting there.
Gosh, that is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, that was.
Whenever I saw that,
but
But she manipulated that, right? She took she didn't lock the door of her sister's room. Like she took the key,
Yeah.
but didn't lock the door.
Yeah.
Because she
exactly.
wanted it to happen, but like she didn't. She thought that it could have been her. I guess whenever she woke up, right?
She thought it was her, but I think not locking was just showing. I don't think she was doing it to like entice anything. She just didn't lock the door because it just shows that she still respects her sister, even after all the shit that they went through. She still like loves her sister, and that just further shows after she wakes up, sees the person who like deflowered her, who she obviously has very strong feelings for, just murdered by her sister and eaten. And like the first thing she does is just pick her up and like take her clothes off and start like washing like all the shit off of her. Like she's still looking out for her in that moment. Like, and now we get to afterwards. So like we see like a couple months later, I guess, or like maybe a week or two later, the sister's like healed, and the other sister is now in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way they don't like say anything. Do they say they don't?
No, I don't think that we really get any dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just the parents, right?
Yeah.
And then like she kisses her through the glass.
Or like she like looks at her finger and like
That's
flips her
right.
off, and then she puts it up to like the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And like the sister kisses it almost like as if they're just like apologizing to each other and like hey, once I'm out, if I do get out, like, you know, we're good. And
that was the strongest like emotional connection in the film, like I said earlier,
bond,
because they were just sisters in this fucked up world that they unfortunately had to be a part of.
Right. And then now we can talk about that insane ending, that final scene of just her dad, like, even basically telling her like her mom hasn't even found like a reasonable solution, and like fucking
he
good
is
luck
the
with
only
this shit.
solution.
Yeah, he's like, good
I mean,
luck with finding someone who's gonna do this shit for you. Like that's kind of what he's like telling her. She's fucked. Like, good luck, honey. Like, hey, you'll figure something out. We haven't even fucking figured this shit out. It's like, god damn, it's so crazy just to think like the parent would just be like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
like, this is like the one thing we don't know how to help you with.
You will figure it out one day.
Yeah, god. And then
just cut to credits. Cut
the
to
horror
raw.
on her face, like as he's like unbuttoning it and just like showing those insane, like still open lesions, like because she's obviously still actively doing it to this day. Like she's never going to be able to stop. Like
that's a champ of a husband.
He's got some strong feelings for that lady.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I just thought that like he looked a little pale because maybe there could be a theme of like
blood loss.
Yeah, true.
He's just
true.
losing so much from the wife feeding.
I liked all of the vampire things that this director and editor like threw into this movie just to like give it that little hint of fantasy in reality. Mm-hmm. It was like the score really brought it out.
Right. I think they're only dipping their toes into what, like, they could make a whole sequel about her like doing some more fucked up shit. I'm sure they won't because it would be in poor taste. But like, I feel like they've only dipped their toes into like what a fucked up family situation could be.
True.
Because like if you look at something like maybe Hereditary could be comparable to like that kind of like their family's in some deep shit.
I think what I'm meaning by that is that they're like mainly at the beginning focusing on this one character.
Yeah.
And I expected it to be like a one character journey, and I didn't expect there to be a dynamic that was as strong as the sister bond. And that really brought the second half of the movie like to another level for me. Of course, the ending made it into a family thing, which that would be so cool if there was like some type of sequel.
Yeah.
I don't,
I don't think they will, but yeah.
If they did a sequel, what would it be called? And like, what would it be? It would probably be
Rar.
It'd probably be like something like
Rar XD.
You know how like Unbreakable and Split turned into like this like super like bad guy movie.
Yeah.
It'd probably be something like that where just all these like
maybe
kind
Titan.
of vampires.
Titan is like she gives birth to like a car or some shit, or she's pregnant from a car. Her new movie.
Yeah.
Which just won the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Fest.
We're gonna be talking about that movie.
It will be next month.
Yep.
I think it should kick off October. We can cut this out. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm not cutting this out. We're still
Sneak
on.
peek? The trailer doesn't give a lot away, which I absolutely love. Like, it's still
Pretty ambiguous.
Yeah, it's still
It could
pretty
go
ambiguous
anywhere.
for me. I don't know what to expect from this movie still. Like, watching just like the international trailer they have put out, you should watch it. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So, Raw, what would you give it?
Shoot. I mean, I've only seen it one time, so it's like I'd probably rate it different if I see it another time, which I plan on watching it again. Really enjoyed this movie. I'd probably give it like somewhere around a 90. Probably above a 90. If I were doing out of 100, let's say 92.
Oh. I was literally thinking 92 in my head for my score. Well, thanks for stopping by again, guys. I've been Geoff.
I've been Kyle.
Thank you for coming by and watching A Tale of Two Movies. Join us next week to see what we're going to watch.
Yeah. So long.